This is the Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. Episode 72, recorded September 1st, 2016. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. I am your host and editor-in-chief of TV Enthusiast, Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is our keeper of comics here, Will.
Hello. Okay,
so today we're going to be talking about Mr. Robot, BrainDead, and Peaky Blinders, which is, of course, part of our show club discussion we've been having going on for a while now. So let's kick things off with Mr. Robots. So, we're not going to be talking about the most recent episode that aired last night from the point that we recorded this. We're going to be talking about the last 2 weeks' episodes. Mainly, I think we want to talk about the big twist that happened basically 3 weeks ago, I guess.
I guess what I really want to just talk about is like probably the most recent episodes of what we've been watching. Instead of just like really trying to like go into depth on like.
Well, rather than discussing just like the whole episode, it's just that twist, which was a pretty significant one in which we found out that.
Yeah, this was pretty big. Yeah, I'll let you go ahead with this revelation here.
Well, throughout the season, we'd been seeing Elliot sticking to this kind of stringent routine, and it seemed to be like this self-imposed idea of like, okay, well, this time I go where they're playing basketball and I watch them play, and then I go to a support group, a religious support group, then I do this, and it's all kind of the idea is like he's trying to get Mr. Robot out of his head and be away from computers and stuff like that. But what we find out is that that whole reason for that structured lifestyle isn't that. It's because he's in jail.
Right. So the structured lifestyle that he was talking about was kind of imposed upon him.
Mm-hmm.
So
everything that's happened with Elliot this season has actually been in jail.
In prison. This really cements Elliot as the ultimate unreliable narrator.
Mm-hmm.
He said earlier, the clues were there all along. At the very beginning of the season, he's talking with his therapist, and she says something to him. It cuts away. And then Elliot directly tells you, the viewer, he directly says, he didn't want you to hear that because he doesn't trust you. Elliot doesn't trust the viewers with whatever she said. So already, hey, something's up here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now Elliot decides to let you in, decides to trust you with this big secret, and the big secret, I guess, is that he was in prison. Elliot has essentially been lying to you this whole season about what's going on, and it's interesting because now at the end of this episode, Elliot says he can trust you, but now it creates this dynamic where you no longer trust Elliot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so bravo. It kind of turns the tables on that relationship that Elliot has with the viewer.
Well,
whereas at the front, Elliot was distrustful of the viewers, but now you the viewer, you're distrustful of Elliot.
Yeah. What Elliot also says at that point is that he wasn't completely lying. That like everything he said did happen. It just happened in this different context.
Yeah, it just happened. Yeah. So he wasn't completely lying to you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just the context of what we're hearing. So it's like we saw that it was Craig Robinson's character, as this like neighborhood like guy that's involved in the neighborhood or whatever and helps people out and stuff. Now we know that he's either like a guard or a prisoner or something in that, but that actually did happen.
Right.
It's just a matter of like the context of how it happened, like that it wasn't on the streets and free. It was, in a prison situation. So that's kind of the main thing I wanted to address from that episode is you had that, and you also had Mr. Robot basically telling Elliot that Elliot had shot Tyrell and killed him, but we don't know if that's true because you can't trust Mr. Robot either.
Yeah, Mr. Robot's not more trustworthy than Elliot is. You know,
less trustworthy, actually.
Yeah, he's actually less trustworthy. So we don't know what's going on with Tyrell. It's interesting. We're 3 episodes from the end of the season, and we still not have actually seen Tyrell. Maybe he is dead.
We saw him jump out of a trunk in Elliot's head.
Basically, yeah. You know, that was it. So it's kind of interesting. So I expect at least, we're not covering the latest episode that aired, but at least in spoilers, Tyrell doesn't show up in the latest episode that aired either. So from there, I think at least they got 3 episodes for Tyrell to either show up or not show up, and to either confirm or not confirm his fate. So we'll see.
So that's what I mainly want to talk about from the 2 weeks old episode, or 3 weeks old, depending on how you look at it. Now we're going to be talking about last week's episode,
which is the latest one I've seen. So I have not seen the episode that aired last night, yet. I'll be getting around to it. So there won't be any discussion about this week's episode.
So what's interesting about last week's episode, though, is that Elliot isn't in it at all.
This is 0 Elliot. And you know what? I actually didn't like this episode so much for it. You know, it's funny. This was an episode totally dedicated to, I guess, moving the plot forward with regards to the FBI and F Society and all that. And I thought that's good. That's good. That's what they should do. This is totally what they should be doing. And then I just thought, I don't actually care about any of this. I really don't. I was just watching it, like the whole kidnap thing, and I'm just like, I just want to get back into Elliot's head. I really do. I think that's where Mr. Robot is actually the most interesting.
I agree that that's the most interesting, but I definitely actually did enjoy this episode. We got to see a bit of a darker side of Darlene in the episode.
I just don't think Darlene was ever that strong of a character to me, you know, like this whole time, I guess she's a good character and everything. This whole time, to me at least, she was always like just kind of there. But yeah, we did see a darker side to her. She actually like murdered a woman flat out, like crossed that line.
She pretended that it was just an incident of like an accident, that she only planned to shock her, but it was fully intentional murder. And it stems from a place that she remembers this woman. We wondered why they had picked this woman's place to like move into F Society when she was out, and she had like a smart house, and they basically made her smart house go insane
and
forced her to escape.
The best scenes of the season.
You know, forced her to leave, and then you saw like, okay, well, she's out of town. F Society is going to be using this as their base of operations. But it was always a question of, well, like, why? Why is it so tied to this woman? Why does it have to be this place? And it seems kind of elaborate for them to go through to do that, you know? Well, you find out why, which is because not only is this woman tied to E-Corp, but Darlene specifically remembers this woman from when they had the trials about the gas leak that basically gave her father cancer and everything. All the stuff that kind of happened that's like ruined her life, basically. Her and Elliot's life, and also Angela's life as well. All those things tie back, are connected to this woman. And Darlene kind of has a moment where she's talking to her, and the woman thinks like, oh, this is just some woman out for her own ideals or whatever. But Darlene quickly like turns the conversation around and says like, I remember you from the trials. I remember that and stuff, and talks about how she lost her father and then she kills her.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting that we got that. We got this like, okay, this is where this all stems from, for her. But, that's kind of the main event of that episode. Also happening in the episode, we saw that Mobley and Trenton, I was looking for their names, that's hesitating there for a second, the two of the other hackers involved in F Society basically ran for it. They're like, okay, we need to get out of this, we need to be done with this. They're scared shitless of the Dark Army, and it seems like one of them might have gotten caught in a trap, at least. But while all of that's happening, Darlene's with her boyfriend that had the connection with the Dark Army.
Yeah.
And she sees a picture of her sleeping on his computer, a message saying that he has her and like this information. And so she's like, what the fuck?
Like he's going to deliver her to Dark Army, you know? Like,
yeah. So he comes out of the bathroom after taking a shower after she sees that, and she clocks him with a baseball bat. And that's how the episode ends.
Wow. Yep. That was like, whoo. Yep. So yeah, I can't wait to get cracking on the next one, actually. So, gonna be so good.
Yeah, so I've seen that episode, but I'm excited to talk with you about it next week. But in the meantime, let's move on. Let's talk about BrainDead. So we're going to be talking about last week's episode of BrainDead. And this is the one where Senator Red Wheatus, hires an investigator to look into...
This is the episode where he goes ham.
He hires an investigator to go after Laurel's romantic past.
Yeah.
To try to find...
Oh, my God.
About that.
Yeah, this turns up... doesn't turn up anything useful, but turns up a lot of tension between Laurel and her would-be boyfriend.
Gareth, yeah.
Yeah, Gareth. Yeah. Mostly because of Gareth's insecurities.
It was quite funny when a story came out that she had sex with
oh my God.
Michael Moore.
Oh my God. And then they had like these scenes where he's like visualizing it, and Michael Moore is actually yeah. I was like, it was actually gross. It's like you
just gotta see like he envisions it, and then you see him like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else happened in that episode. Mainly it was like the tension of their relationship. So at first it's just the idea, like he kind of tells her we're looking into it, and she's like, yeah, whatever. And he's like, she's like, what, are you worried about my partners? He's like, oh no. And he's like, well, how many? And she's like, so you are worried or something. And then the Michael Moore thing comes up. That turns out to be, by the end of the episode, that wasn't the case, that she lied.
The case, yeah.
She lied, saying that she had been with Michael Moore.
Well,
basically,
because he brought it up, and,
yeah,
and so she was already upset from the last time he brought up these insecurities about who she was sleeping with and what. So so he brings this up, and so she kind of lets him believe it, as kind of punishment for even like bringing it up, or like having like that kind of insecurity about it, because it pisses her off. Yeah. And so so she just lets him believe it, and it gets ugly pretty fast.
Even when he finds out that it's not the case, Laurel's like, I think we can't do this or anything anymore. He pretty much screws up a pretty good thing, just being insecure about like all this stuff coming out. It's like none of that does anything though for Red Wheatus or anything politically. So yeah, it doesn't really have any great benefit to him. But you have to kind of wonder what Red's game is in relation to Gareth, because he seems to be targeting Laurel almost as like fucking with Gareth. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like this weird thing because he's basically infecting other members of his staff and stuff. He hasn't even tried to infect Gareth. There's just this weird kind of connection between them that, you know, I wonder what level of it is Red's curiosity as to what Gareth is doing, or, you know, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I think Red knows. He has to know. Gareth.
Well, he knows they're dating.
He knows they're dating, yeah. One big thing is Red just flat out murders a guy right in his office and then eats his brains off the wall.
He tries it, he's like, oh, that's good. And then
he's like, that's
puts it
good.
in a Tupperware container.
He puts it
Red, you know? Like do not eat.
right, yeah, do not eat, this is mine. Yeah. He puts he says, this is good. He says, one of the greatest minds of our age. It's so, oh my God.
Yeah, that was crazy. Just flat out murdered him.
Yeah, just flat out murdered him. He got his intern to clean it up.
Oh man, Red. Tony Shalhoub's portrayal of Red continues to be probably the best part of the show for me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Tony Shalhoub was a huge get, massively talented. Anything he shows up in, he's always a delight.
Yeah, and he's really great as Red. Like, I don't even get, like, the stink of Monk isn't on him. Like, I watched Monk and I liked Monk, but, like, I don't get any of that off of him. It's just completely out of my mind, which is impressive considering how iconic that character was.
Right.
Able to shed it so much in this portrayal of a very different character. But, yeah, Red Wheatus continues to be an exciting reason to watch the show. So I'm looking forward to more and what's happening with that. I'm already one episode ahead of you there, and I'm looking forward to Sunday. There aren't too many episodes left. I'm not sure exactly how many there are.
We're coming to the close of this too. We're almost at the end of Mr. Robot. We're almost at the end of this. Summer shows are winding down. Fall shows are just getting started. So as these shows wind down and end, do not fear, we will still have much to talk about on this podcast. Definitely.
Speaking of shows winding down, we've been doing our show club discussion of Peaky Blinders. There are currently 3 seasons out. This week we're watching season 3, episode 4, which means after this there's only 2 episodes left.
And then our Peaky Blinders Show Club will be at an end for the foreseeable future until there's a season 4. But yep, wow, I can't believe we're coming up to the end so fast. And boy, was this episode a really eventful episode. I mean, we are heading towards the climax on a bullet train.
Yeah.
This episode really had everything. It had crazy women, beatings, priests,
a skull literally cracking.
A skull literally cracking. Jeez, I winced at that. I was like, I didn't know if they just like dropped him or what. Like I was thinking they didn't just kill Tommy off. That couldn't have happened. But sure as heck sounded like it.
Yeah.
I winced at that part. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, that was bad. So the episode started basically with the boys out on a hunt.
It started in the worst way possible. I'm like, it just shows like this deer, and then all of a sudden his head's blown off, and I'm like, what? Why start the episode with that? Why? Darn it. I don't like it when animals get murdered.
And so they're cleaning the carcass and getting that ready to eat and everything, and they're kind of having their little boys get together thing with everybody.
Well, the whole thing is because their dad died.
Yeah, that's what Tommy ends up revealing, that Arthur Sr. died, and
the man that we last saw in season 2, who was
season 1, I think, wasn't it?
That was season 1 actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, geez.
Played by Chibs from Sons of Anarchy.
Yep, played by Chibs from Sons of Anarchy. He really pulled one over on Arthur. in that episode. We
Really
find out,
detestable character.
yeah, really just detestable character. We find out that he has managed to get himself killed.
Apparently in his dying moments, he wanted forgiveness from his sons. They were contacted by a prostitute, that he was with, that took the time to write them, which Tommy appreciated, but basically they all decided that they weren't going to forgive him, and that his name died at that point. So, Arthur Jr. is still around, so the name's not completely dead, but they're not going to be naming anybody after Arthur Sr. from this point on, so, none of the babies are going to have that name anymore. So this is what they kind of decide. They decide, okay, we're going to move on from there. And this is the point where Tommy is basically planning a robbery with them because he doesn't trust the Russians that he's dealing with to pay up on what they say they're going to. So he's basically like, while they're running their operation, they're going to rob their, the contents of their, estate or whatever.
Yep.
Meanwhile, on the other side, Polly goes to confession and royally fucks over Tommy by accident.
Yeah. This has major repercussions in the back half of the episode. But yeah, I was just wondering what the hell she was doing there in the first place. Like, really, she should have been just keeping her mouth shut. I just thought either she has some kind of game in mind, or she's just fucking up. And it turned out she's just fucking up.
It seems like Tommy's whole family is fucking up. Like, that's, I think, a big theme of this season is that his ship is leaky, you know? He mentioned family business to Arthur and the other boys, and Arthur ended up telling his wife all of everything. So she basically extorts Tommy for more money than what they were supposed to get, and basically like an assurance that she's gonna get it. And yeah, then you have Polly with this. There's just, yeah, his family's not really reliable for him right now. This comes to a head because of what Polly said when Tommy is going to assassinate, what's his name?
The priest. I forgot his name. I just
Father
call him
Hughes.
the priest. Father Hughes, yeah.
So he's going
I
to...
just call him the priest for short, because that's easy to remember, and there's really only one major character this season who is a priest, so you can pretty much guess who that is.
So Tommy's going to assassinate Father Hughes, but because of Polly's confession, which basically what she said was that she was going to be involved in the assassination of a man of the cloth, which was enough for them to put two and two together, knowing that she's a Shelby, to say, oh, Tommy's plan is to kill Father Hughes. So Father Hughes has some goons rough up Tommy.
Yeah, he basically sets a trap for Tommy, you know, by making himself appear vulnerable to let Thomas go in, and then once Thomas is in, his goons snuck up on him, got the drop on him, and they fucked him up.
And cracked his skull, which was
And cracked his
brutal.
skull. Yeah, it's just the snap when you hear that, it's like... Oh, yeah.
So Tommy's just royally fucked up, and then it seems that the goons went a little too far, even for what the father had intended.
Well, they wanted him Tommy conscious.
Yeah.
When they got there, and he was not. And, you know, the Father Hughes basically reiterates his threats against Thomas's son, saying, you know, they will take his son from him. You know, he repeats that a bunch of times, and he tells them, you know, he has people in Tommy's life who are close enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, and then he basically tells Tommy that he is going to have to show up to the Russians' dinner and say that he was mistaken in thinking that Father Hughes was a leak. Basically, like, going back on what he said, even though Tommy's just royally fucked up. So Tommy gets dropped off at his house, basically just literally thrown out of the carriage, stumbles inside, basically fires all of his male staff because he knows somebody there is involved. Personally, I think it's his, like, head housekeeper.
I think so so too. When I was seeing the housekeeper, I'm like, it's her. He needs to fire her. But I don't think it doesn't seem like he even realizes or suspects her. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, she's the housekeeper. She takes care of the house. She babysits. You know, if anybody's going to take the child, it's going to be her. I'm 100% positive that she is one of the people Father Hughes was talking about.
Yeah, and Father Hughes had said that he had men or people in Tommy's life, so that's why he fired all of his male staff at the house and is now having some Peaky Blinders move in to protect his son. Yeah. Tommy then imbibes in some drugs so that he can basically stay conscious because he's just really fucked up right now. And he goes to the Russians. And they're kind of like shocked at his appearance because he just looks messed up. And
all kinds of messed up.
He apologizes and says he was mistaken on the part of the father, forces him to basically do a Catholic something you would say to ask God for forgiveness, but replacing God with Father Hughes' name.
Yeah, with Father Hughes,
which is both showing a lot of ego on Father Hughes' part, but also a lot of cruelty in the fact that Tommy is barely conscious.
Yeah,
barely keeping himself together, and he's forcing him to do this whole thing. Which tells me Father Hughes has got one hell of a death coming.
He does. He is evil. He is flat out evil.
So Tommy does that and then takes off, then goes to his sister's house.
He goes to the Russians.
And he has because his sister is a communist, he has her get some Russians together, some contacts she has, and basically unravels Father Hughes' plan there by saying yes, they know that you know about the planned robbery and they intended it for you to know because they want you to perform an act of aggression on British soil, which is going to cause Britain to cut off ties with Russia.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what they want. He tells them that their informant is working against them. And basically he reveals, the robbery, the way it's planned to go down with his family, it's actually intended for them to die in the robbery, at least the Russians, or not the Russians, but
the Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, the Peaky Blinders.
So Tommy's family is meant to die in the course of this operation.
In the course of this operation. Yeah. That's what Tommy reveals.
Yeah. So, that basically Tommy sells them out because he's like, fuck this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Goes to the stairway in his sister's house and collapses and tells her to call an ambulance because he's just gone.
Yeah, he's just gone.
And that's it for the episode. So biggest points is just Tommy's head cracking. That was just brutal. And the effects of it and him having to kind of stay conscious and carry on and do business was crazy.
That was super crazy. Yeah. That was nuts.
Yeah.
At the end there.
I liked the ending with him going to his sister's house and spilling the beans on the plan, because that says that even though he made that kind of humiliating apology in front of the Russians, that he's not sticking by that. He's still going after Father Hughes.
Yep, he's still going after Father Hughes. He's not going to be dissuaded by threats.
And so that kind of gives us an idea of what's going to happen in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, it's going to be hot fire.
I'm looking forward to it. Lots of stuff going on. One side plot that happened in this episode was all of the Peaky Blinder women of the episode. They're not really part of the Peaky Blinders, but Polly Shelby and Tommy's secretary and John and Arthur's wives, all of them basically go on strike.
Yeah.
But it's kind of for them, it's almost just like we're going on strike, meaning we're going to go to a party.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's what it looked like.
They're joining a women's suffrage movement where a bunch of women are going on strike and they decide to go as well. This seems to be engineered by Arthur's wife, who is really working heavily against Tommy's interests. in a lot of ways here. We also had that moment I'd mentioned earlier where she basically extorted Tommy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It being a real problem. And yeah, you're going into that side of it now. So that was tied into Polly's story with her just being a mess and like going to confession and that causing Tommy to be. So there's a lot going on with the Shelby woman, I guess you could say.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So we'll have to see how that plays into the final 2 episodes of the season as well.
I'm pretty excited.
I'm sure it's going to play in as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. It definitely will, I think. Hopefully.
So that's it for Peaky Blinders Season 3, Episode 4. We got 2 episodes left. If you want to watch along with us, that's only, 16 episodes so far. So if you could get caught up by episode 17 next week, then you can talk about the penultimate episode of Season 3 with us on our next podcast. So stay tuned for that. I also want to say that once we finish Peaky Blinders, the week after, we'll be doing our 75th podcast, and we'll be doing an Advocates of Great Television in which we each are choosing a show from our childhood to represent, that we're going to bring forward that we're all going to watch. If you've watched, or if you've listened to us do Advocates of Great Television before, you'll get the basic format. I'm trying to get in contact with Ed. I'm having trouble reaching him right now. I think he's busy. If I can't reach him, I'll try to get somebody else involved, so that we have at least 3 of us on here for Advocates. But yeah, that'll be on September 22nd when we do Advocates.
Cool.
So, thank you everybody for listening. Check us out at TVEnthusiast.com. That's our front page. Go to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. You can, like I said, follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, or just at our main site, TVEnthusiast.com. You can write us a letter, the weekly set at TVEnthusiast.com. That's our email address. So thank you everybody for listening. Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset at TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more